June 22nd, 2024, 7:47 a.m. Donetsk Oblast, Eastern Ukraine. 5 Russian Mi-28N attack helicopters fly in tactical formation. Night Hunter variants. Low altitude, 50-80 meters above terrain. Each helicopter costs $18 million. Each crew, 2 highly trained pilots. Total force value, $90 million in aircraft plus operational costs, training, weapon systems. 14 minutes later, all 5 are destroyed. Every crew member dead, 0 survivors. Total wreckage scattered across 12 kilometers of Ukrainian countryside. The weapon that destroyed them, Mi-28 Stinger missiles. Shoulder-launched, man-portable. Cost per missile, $120,000. 6 missiles fired. Total ammunition cost, $720,000. This is IronBullet. And what you're about to witness isn't just tactical success. It's the mathematical end state of a strategic failure 14 months in the making. When rotary wing aviation meets modern, man-portable air defense without proper doctrine, without adequate countermeasures, without learning from previous losses, the outcome was inevitable. The only question was when. June 22nd answered that question with extreme prejudice. The official report calls this successful anti-aircraft engagement. Understated, clinical, accurate. The reality is that 5 helicopter crews flew into an engagement they couldn't win. Not because of bad luck, not because of superior enemy skill. Because Russian military helicopter doctrine in Ukraine is fundamentally broken. Has been broken since March 2022. Still hasn't been fixed. And the price for that systemic failure is paid in crew lives and destroyed aircraft. Stay with me. Because the detail that made this massacre possible, the tactical choice Russian commanders keep making despite mounting evidence is suicidal. It's going to show you why expensive weapons platforms become targets when doctrine doesn't adapt to threat environment. Let's establish what Mi-28N actually is, what it can do, what it can't. Mi-28N Night Hunter, Russian attack helicopter. Development 1980s-90s. Production 1996 present. Approximately 130 produced. Primary operator Russian Aerospace Forces. Role anti-armor, close air support, battlefield interdiction. Soviet design philosophy armored, survivable, capable of operating in contested airspace. Armament 30mm chin-mounted cannon. Up to 16 anti-tank missiles. Unguided rockets, gun pods, flexible payload. Serious firepower against ground targets. Protection, armored cockpit. Redundant system. Self-sealing fuel tanks, titanium armor protecting vital components, designed to survive 12.7mm ground fire, maybe 23mm at certain angles. Countermeasures, flare dispensers, chaff, infrared jammers on some variants, laser warning receivers, missile approach warning system. Everything Soviet-Russian engineering can provide within weight and cost constraints. Speed, maximum 300 km/h. Cruise 270 km/h. Low altitude dash speed closer to 250 km/h while maneuvering. Fast for helicopter. Not fast enough to outrun missiles. The Mi-28N is not a bad helicopter. It's well designed for its intended mission. The problem isn't the aircraft. It's how it's being used in Ukraine. Against threats it wasn't designed to survive. Now the Stinger. What makes it effective against helicopters? Mi-28 Stinger. American design. Raytheon production. Development 1970s. In service 1981. Continuously upgraded. Over 70,000 produced. Used by 29 countries. Guidance, passive infrared homing. Fire and forget. Lock before launch. Missile autonomously tracks target heat signature after firing. Operator doesn't need to maintain target track. Range 4.8 kilometers maximum. Effective range against helicopters 3 to 4 kilometers. Altitude 11,500 feet maximum. Helicopters flying at 50 to 80 meters are well within envelope. Warhead 3 kilograms high explosive. Proximity fused. Doesn't need direct hit. Explodes near target. Fragments shred rotor systems, engines, flight controls. Catastrophic damage to unarmored components. Speed Mach 2.2. Approximately 750 meters per second. Much faster than any helicopter. Lock and launch time 5 to 7 seconds for trained operator. Flight time to 3 km target approximately 4 seconds. Cost $120,000 per missile. Command launch unit $80,000. Total system $200,000. Reusable launcher. Single-use missiles. The mathematics favor the defender. 1 team, 2 operators, 6 missiles. Can potentially destroy 6 targets worth $100+ million. The cost exchange ratio is catastrophically bad for the helicopter. Ukraine received thousands of Stingers, not enough to cover entire front, but enough to make helicopter operations in forward areas extremely dangerous. Russian forces know this, have known since early 2022. They operate low-altitude attack helicopters anyway. The question is why? June 22nd, the engagement. What actually happened? 7:47 a.m. 5 Mi-28N helicopters depart forward operating base. Mission: close air support for Russian ground forces engaged near Chasiv Yar. Standard mission profile: low-altitude approach. Terrain masking, pop-up attacks with anti-tank missiles and rockets, flight formation, standard tactical spacing, lead helicopter, 2 wingmen at 2 trail elements of 500-1,000 meters separation, low altitude, 50-80 meters above ground level, fast, 250 km range. Ukrainian observation post detects them at 7:49 a.m. Visual spotting first, then acoustic. Helicopter engine noise carries, especially 5 helicopters. The observers relay position to nearby Stinger team, multiple teams in the area. Standard Ukrainian air defense posture. 1 team responds, 2 operators, 6 Stinger missiles, positioned on ridge line with good sight lines. They've been waiting, not for these specific helicopters, but for opportunity. Patience is their doctrine. 7:51 a.m. Lead Mi-28N enters engagement zone. Range 3,200 meters. Stinger team acquires visual track. Begins target assessment. Identifies as attack helicopter. Hostile. Priority target. Here's the critical detail. The helicopter crew might have countermeasure systems. Flares, infrared jammers, but those systems only work if activated before missile launch. If the crew knows they're being targeted, they don't. No missile launch detected, no warning, just flying their mission profile. Low and fast, thinking terrain masking provides protection. It doesn't, not against man-portable systems with operators positioned on high ground. The ridgeline position negates terrain masking. The Stinger team can see down into valleys where helicopters think they're hidden. 7:52 a.m. Stinger operator achieves infrared lock. Lead helicopter. Range 2,800 meters. Target moving left to right. Crossing angle, not optimal, but acceptable. Operator fires. Stinger launches. Missile accelerates. Mach 2.2. 4-second flight time to target. The Mi-28N crew has 4 seconds to detect, identify, and defeat incoming missile. They don't detect it. Stinger is passive seeker. No radar emissions. No laser designation. Just infrared tracking. Silent until impact. 7:52.04 a.m. Stinger impacts lead helicopter. Not direct hit. Proximity fuse detonation 3 meters from tail rotor assembly. Fragmentation pattern shreds tail rotor blades. Severs hydraulic lines. Damages tail rotor gearbox. The Mi-28N immediately loses directional control. Tail rotor provides anti-torque. Without it, main rotor torque spins the helicopter. Uncontrollable spin. Altitude 65 meters. No altitude for emergency landing. Crash. Fireball. Both crew members killed on impact. $18 million aircraft destroyed. Ordnance on board, anti-tank, missiles, rockets, cooks off. Secondary explosions. The 4 remaining helicopters see the crash. They don't know what caused it. Possible engine failure. Possible technical malfunction. They're trained to continue mission unless ordered to abort. Russian doctrine, press attack. Don't break formation over single loss. They continue. This decision is fatal. 7:53 a.m. Second Stinger missile. Target wingman helicopter. Range 2,600 meters. Lock. Launch. 4 seconds. This cruiser sees the launch. Smoke trail visible. Missile approach. Warning system alerts. Pilot reacts. Flares. Multiple. Flares deployed. Infrared countermeasures activate. The flares work. Partially. Stinger tracks toward brightest heat source. Flare is brighter than helicopter engine. Missile diverts. Misses by 40 meters. Flies past. Detonates at maximum flight time. No damage to helicopter. Stinger team observes miss. No concern. They have 5 missiles remaining. 4 helicopters remaining. Mathematics still favor them. 7:54 a.m. Third Stinger. Same target. The helicopter that evaded previous missile. Operator adjusts. Waits for flare expenditure. Helicopter can't deploy flares continuously. Limited supply. Maybe 128 flares total. They've expended 8 to 12 already. More importantly, continuous flare deployment creates The helicopter crew reacts again. More flares. But the Stinger operator fired during flare reload interval. Brief gap in countermeasure coverage. Missile tracks true. Impact. Proximity detonation near engine exhaust. Fragments penetrate engine cowling. Turbine damage. Fire. The Mi-28N has 2 engines. Redundancy. With fire spreads, hydraulics fail. Crew loses control. Forced landing. Hard. Helicopter breaks apart on impact. Crew survives initially, but they're in Ukrainian-controlled territory. Forward position. No rescue possible. Both crew members captured. Helicopter destroyed. 2 down. 3 helicopters remaining. They're trying to abort now. Reverse course. Retreat to Russian lines. But they're still in Stinger engagement zone. Still 2+ kilometers from safety. Still vulnerable. 7:55 a.m. Fourth Stinger. Target trail helicopter. Most distant. Trying to flee at maximum speed. Range 3,100 meters. Near maximum Stinger range. Difficult shot. Operator takes it anyway. Lock. Launch. The helicopter deploys flares immediately. Aggressive countermeasure program. Multiple flares. Infrared jammer active. Everything the aircraft has. Stinger tracks. Flares confuse seeker briefly. Missile wobbles. Begins tracking flare. Then reacquires helicopter. Modern Stinger variants have improved countermeasure logic. They can distinguish helicopter from flare if lock is solid before flare deployment. Impact. Engine hit. Catastrophic damage. Immediate loss of power. Auto-rotation attempt. Partially successful. Helicopter lands hard but doesn't explode. Crew evacuates. Injured but alive. They run. Ukrainian infantry nearby. Crew captured within 20 minutes. 3 helicopters destroyed. 1 captured intact with damage. 3 crews dead. 1 crew captured. 1 helicopter remaining. 7:56 a.m. The final Mi-28N. Pilot is attempting maximum speed dash. Full throttle. Terrain masking. Erratic maneuvering. Continuous flare deployment. He knows he's targeted. knows his formations destroyed, trying to survive. 5th Stinger, range 2,400 meters. Operator leads target, anticipates helicopter maneuver. Fires. The pilot sees launch, deploys flares, brakes hard left, dives toward terrain, trying to break missile track with combination of countermeasures and violent maneuvering. The Stinger follows, tracks through flares, stays locked during maneuver, closing velocity too high, maneuver too slow. Physics determines outcome, impact, main rotor mast, catastrophic structural failure, rotor blades separate, helicopter disintegrates in flight, debris field spreads over 200 meters. Both crew members killed instantly. 7:57 a.m., 14 minutes after first helicopter entered engagement zone. 5 Mi-28N attack helicopters destroyed. 10 crew members, 8 dead, 2 captured. Total loss. Stinger team, 0 casualties. 6 missiles expended. 5 kills. 1 miss. 83% hit rate. Textbook execution. They displace immediately. Don't wait for Russian artillery response. Standard procedure. Shoot and move. Survival requires mobility. Russian forces eventually recover some wreckage. Technical intelligence. Battle damage assessment. But the helicopters are total losses. The crews are gone. The mission failed completely. This engagement raises questions. Obvious questions. Why were 5 helicopters in same area? Why low altitude when Stingers are known threat? Why no suppression of enemy air defense before helicopter operations? The answers reveal systemic problems. Russian helicopter doctrine in Ukraine emphasizes low altitude operations. Theory. Terrain masking reduces exposure to medium and high altitude air defense systems. S-300, Patriot, NASAMS. These systems engage targets at altitude. Low-flying helicopters potentially avoid them. But low altitude maximizes exposure to manned portable systems. Stingers, Starstreaks, Martlets, Biorons. Ukraine has thousands, distributed across entire front. No way to suppress all of them. Attempting low-altitude operations means accepting man-portable threat. The doctrine assumes acceptable risk, but based on Soviet-era experience where man-portable systems were less capable, less common, easier to suppress or avoid. That assumption is wrong in Ukraine 2024. Man-portable systems are everywhere. Capable, well-trained operators, high availability of missiles. The threat environment has changed. Doctrine hasn't adapted. Russian forces continue helicopter operations using pre-war doctrine. The losses mount. June 22nd is one engagement. Not unique, not even unusual. Similar losses occur monthly, sometimes weekly. Why continue operations despite losses? Because alternatives are worse. Ground forces need close air support. Artillery alone is insufficient. Fixed-wing aircraft can loiter, can't provide immediate responsive fire. Helicopters can, so they are used despite losses. This is command failure. Accepting preventable casualties because adapting doctrine is difficult requires new tactics, new training, new operational concepts. Easier to keep using helicopters the old way and accept losses until helicopters become unavailable, until training pipeline can't replace crew losses, until the force structure collapses from attrition. That point hasn't arrived yet, but June 22nd demonstrates the trajectory. 5 helicopters, 1 engagement, 14 minutes. This rate of loss is unsustainable. 3 questions from the beginning. Time to answer them. Why were 5 helicopters destroyed so quickly? Because they operated in threat environment using doctrine that doesn't account for modern man man-portable air defense density. Low-altitude flight maximizes exposure to stingers. Group formation provides multiple targets in single engagement. Continuation of mission after first loss demonstrated poor threat assessment. Every tactical choice favored the defender. Could this have been prevented? Yes. Multiple ways. Don't mass helicopters in known threat areas. Operate at altitudes above man-portable engagement ceiling. Accepts exposure to medium altitude defense but reduces stinger threat. Suppress suspected man-portable positions before helicopter operations. Use different platforms, drones, loitering munitions, for missions not requiring manned helicopters. All require doctrinal change. None have been implemented systematically. What does this mean for helicopter viability? In current configuration, helicopters operating low altitude in man-portable air defense environment have unacceptable loss rates. Not just Russian helicopters, any helicopter. The threat is systemic. Modern Stingers with improved seekers defeat countermeasures reliably. Helicopters must adapt or accept losses. Adaptation requires doctrine changes Russian forces haven't made, so losses continue. The lesson from June 22nd isn't that helicopters are obsolete, it's that helicopter employment without updated doctrine for modern air defense environment is suicidal. Russian forces are learning this lesson one destroyed airframe at a time, at $18 million per lesson, plus crew lives, plus operational capability loss. Eventually, doctrine will adapt, or helicopter operations will cease. Those are the only two endpoints. Current trajectory leads toward the second. This is IronBullet. We analyze the battles that change wars. And June 22nd didn't change anything. That's the problem. It's one more data point in pattern that's been clear since March 2022. Russian helicopter operations in Ukraine incur catastrophic losses against modern, man-portable air defense when using Soviet-era low-altitude doctrine. The pattern is obvious. The solution is obvious. The change isn't happening. So helicopters keep dying. Crews keep dying. Commanders keep ordering missions that predictably result in losses. That's not tactics. That's institutional failure. The fields where 5 Mi-28s crashed have been cleared. Wreckage removed, debris recovered. Sites marked, evidence of what happens when expensive platforms meet capable air defense without appropriate doctrine. Ukrainian forces continue positioning Stinger teams throughout theater. Not everywhere. Not enough missiles for total coverage, but enough to make helicopter operations in forward areas extremely dangerous. Russian commanders know this. They send helicopters anyway. Subscribe to IronBullet, because in modern warfare, weapons platforms are only effective when employed with doctrine matching threat environment. Otherwise, they're expensive targets. 5 helicopters, $90 million. 10 crew members, 14 minutes, destroyed by $720,000 in ammunition operated by 2 soldiers. That's not combat. That's cost exchange catastrophe. And it keeps happening because doctrine hasn't adapted to reality. If you think helicopters still have a role in modern high-intensity warfare, type IronBullet in the comments. If you think man-portable air defense has made low-altitude rotary wing operations obsolete, tell me what replaces them. Because ground forces still need close air support. Someone has to provide it. Russia keeps trying with helicopters. Ukraine keeps shooting them down with Stingers. The mathematics are obvious. The outcome is predictable. The doctrine doesn't change. That's the real massacre, not the 5 helicopters. The systemic failure that ensures 5 more will follow. Then 5 more, until lessons are learned or helicopters run out. June 22nd suggests helicopters will run up first. Real battles, real tactics, real consequences. Stay vigilant.